Musai to come and address us.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Sipho Musai. I'm the Chief Executive of Rainwater, as I've been introduced. Really, the purpose of today's media briefing is to, as indicated, is to provide an update of the bulk water provision in terms of the water that we produce and the water that we're currently supplying to municipalities. We hope that we'll do this on a weekly basis, so that we can have an almost real-time appreciation of water provision as a bulk water producer into the system. What we're hoping to achieve is to go into a bit of technical detail, just to make you appreciate some of the numbers that we constantly throw out there. For example, if we say Klip Riversberg is 30%, what does it mean to which municipality? What is the difference between Klip Riversberg at 30% and Stompiesfontein, as an example, at 10%? So we hope that we'll walk a journey with you that helps everybody at home to understand the bulk water system that provides water to our municipalities. So from my end, I will provide the high-level background of what we do, and then the Chief Operations Officer will come in and really go and dive into the details. So I thought I should first start by introducing Rainwater, so that I don't make an assumption that everybody understands what is our primary mandate and what we do. We are a state-owned enterprise with a Schedule 3B Public Finance Management Act scheduling. Our primary mandate is derived from the Water Services Act. No problem. Our primary mandate is derived from Water Services Act. And really, Rainwater's primary mandate is to supply bulk water to municipalities. We are, as a Schedule 3B company in terms of the Public Finance Management Act, it means we are a business enterprise. We are a self-funding or self-funded institute. We generate our own revenue, cover our own costs, and run our business accordingly. To that effect, we don't get any provision from the fiscus in terms of Divisions of Revenue Act. It's really not applicable to us. If you like, Rainwater derives its income from paying customers, municipalities in the main, rather than from the taxpayers. What do we mean? We mean exactly that. We do not derive any allocation or budget from the fiscus, like your municipalities, the provinces, etc. So I think it is important to understand our operations within that context. We've been in existence now for 120 years. We have never received any bailouts or any assistance from government. So in essence, financially, we are on our own. We buy water from the Department of Water and Sanitation. That is what we call raw water. We purify it and supply it to municipalities. We abstract raw water from Val Dam, which is fed by a number of dams, including the two in Lesotho, Mahale and Katse. That water meanders through a network of river waters or rivers or tributaries and rivers, and then it reaches Val Dam, from which we abstract. I think it is important to understand that abstraction is regulated by a license provided to us by the Department of Water and Sanitation. As we speak, that license is sitting at 1,347 million cubic meters per annum, 1,300 million cubic meters per annum. Rainwater is currently over abstracting, and we're sitting at just under 1,700 million cubic meters per annum. So the license is 1,003, we are taking 1,007. So we're abstracting by an odd 400 million cubic meters per annum from the catchment. So we are over abstracting from Vaal Dam and integrated Vaal River system. And of course, the department has brought this to our attention. We could not get an additional license because one, as you all know, that Lesotho Highlands is delayed, but the department felt that there are inefficiencies in terms of the water usage in our municipalities, and therefore did not grant us that license until Lesotho comes through, and has insisted on us to work with municipalities to ensure that there's water use efficiency. I hope the COO will cover that. To that effect, we established rainwater-led Project 1600, where we sit with municipalities to ensure that we come down to this number. On a daily basis, we sit with municipalities not only to coordinate water provision in our area of operations, but to make sure that the consumption is brought down to the license figures. After the water has been abstracted from the Vaal Dam, fed as I indicated from Lesotho and other dams, that water we purify at our purification works. We've got two, one in Vereeniging and the other in Zekerbosch, both south of Johannesburg in Sidibeng district. From there, we pump that water, we distribute it, and we put it at dams, and from which the municipalities take water. So our scope of work is really limited into bulk, where we buy, we purify, and we support, and we distribute rather, that water in bulk quantities to municipalities in our area of operation. So in essence, we have about 3,000, as we speak, 500 kilometers of large diameter pipes through which we supply this water from our purification works and booster stations. In the last 5 years, we have added about 500 kilometers of these large diameter pipes. So I need to repeat that. We have added about 500 kilometers of large diameter pipes in our network to distribute water into our area of operation. We have about 59 strategically located reservoirs from which, as I indicate, municipalities have taken water. On average, we close this past financial year with a supply of 4,700 million liters of water a day, 4.7 billion liters of water a day. This was an increase of about 4,600 million liters of 4.6 billion liters of water a day that we put into a system. So again, as you could see earlier on from the abstraction license point of view, we are taking more water. We are distributing more water. We are adding more water into the system. And these numbers are audited by the Auditor General of South Africa, and the municipalities to that effect also pay for these amounts. So progressively, and then we'll show you later on in the slides, that rainwater has been adding more water into the system. We're currently picking at about 5,000 and odd million liters of water a day, which is 5 billion liters of water a day as we speak, putting into the system to deal with the peak demands. Of course, the numbers may have changed with the new statistics that have just gone out. We estimate that we're supplying about 17.9 million people in our area of operation. We have 18 municipalities that we provide water. We supply water in, obviously, all the municipalities in Gauteng, parts of Free State, Mpumalanga, and Northwest. Yeah. So it's 4 provinces that we supply water into. So in essence, today, we are going to be talking about operations. But I thought I should just talk to other areas of our asset lifecycle management model that underpins our integrated infrastructure development plan. As rainwater, on a continuous basis, we are always planning for the new infrastructure in terms of our master plan, and therefore the next step is capital execution in terms of the infrastructure that we are abstracting.
It looks like some colleagues can't hear you.
Okay.
So we're just going to check the sound quickly,
okay,
and then you can come back.
No problem.
Apologies for that.
No problem.
Thank
Morning, everyone. Are we testing the audio? Can you hear us? You may raise your hand, please.
This is good. Okay, great. It's fine. Thank you.
Let me see this. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted, I was at the stage where explaining what we do as a bulk provider. We always constantly operating our system, but the next phase is the maintenance and of course the construction, which underpins our asset lifecycle management model. Today the CEO is going to talk in detail about operations, and I just want to talk very briefly around the issues of augmentation of our infrastructure, what we're doing in terms of maintenance, and then leave the operations to the Chief Operations Officer. Just in terms of the infrastructure development and upgrade and renewal of our program, I just need to highlight and indicate that from bulk water point of view, as at this year's 17 February 2023, we build and launch a new bulk reservoir in Vlakfontein. This is the largest post-tension pre-stressed concrete reservoir in the world. We launched it in Vlakfontein to add, as part of our infrastructure upgrade, the storage capacity in our system. In essence, this is going to assist what you call our Mapleton system, i.e. Pretoria East or Tshwane East, Ekurhuleni, Governor Mbeki, Victor Kanye, Tembisilahani and Lesedi municipality with the storage, additional storage capacity in there. This will obviously give us, or gave us, this project is done and completed and gave us an additional 24-hour storage capacity. It was a 466 million project, completed on brief and budget on time, started in 2020. This project was built by WBHO and our many of subcontractors, obviously supervised by rainwater engineers and project managers. That is one part. But further to that, from our purification works, in August 2023 this year, we also launched an additional purification works in Zekerbosch. You call it System 5. In essence, it was adding into the 4 systems that we have. We have in Zekerbosch, we have currently System 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we are adding additional system in there. This project has added, as we speak, 150 megaliters of water a day, and we are finishing our engine rooms, and we will be completing and getting contractors to build a disinfection plant, chlorine disinfection plant. And we anticipate that we'll complete that in the next 20 months, and then we'll add an additional 450 megaliters of water a day. 2030, we are already starting System 5B to add another 600 megaliters of water a day. So in total, System 5 or Station 5 will give us 1,200 million liters of water a day. We're not taking plans. This has started, and already 150 megaliters of water a day is being included. So I've already spoken about the reservoirs and augmentation from the reservoir. I've just spoken about augmentation of our purification works. As I indicated, the System 5 is going to cost us just under 5 billion. But often enough, we are asked about maintenance. And then you'll see in that life cycle asset management model that we have adopted that informs our integrated development plan from our infrastructure point of view. We are also doing maintenance. You'll recall in 2021, 2022, and 2023, we invited the media and everybody at home to be with us on site as we spend overnight upgrading and maintaining our infrastructure. What you're seeing here is B line, B11, B9. In essence, it was a new line that we were cross-connecting with an old line, but we were able to do other maintenance schedules in there. In other words, we did work in Palmit, Vereeniging, and then we also added 2 valve rigs in our chambers. And to that effect, we invited the media to have a look at that. This is not the only maintenance that we did, large-scale maintenance. We also had A19 and B4 maintenance in that period of time. Going forward, I'm not going to go into the details, but we still have maintenance plans. We want to, fix some of our valves. We want to ensure that we have interconnectivity in those valves. We want to replace non-return valves, so quite a number of work that we need to do in our valves. A lot of tying-ins, maintenance of our breakers. We also want to do a lot of cleaning in our sedimentation tanks. But what is more important, and this is extremely important when people read some of our reservoirs, when they see percentage being zero, we have to, in terms of statutory inspection and compliance with regards to dam safety regulations, we have to clean our reservoirs. We have to inspect them. So we will be taking some of the reservoirs out, inspect them so that they are maintained. We have, therefore, a capital infrastructure program of about 35 billion in the next 5 years to augment our system. But it is important to indicate the reality of some of the challenges that we're currently experiencing. We're not going to be able to do all this infrastructure development if we're not paid on time. Our debtors days are still a challenge for rainwater. As we speak now, end of September, we had a debtors book of just under 6 billion. And as a result thereof, because of some of the long outstanding debtors days or debt, our net trade receivable in our balance sheet is going to reduce from about 6 billion to 3 billion. So we are seeing year on year an expected credit loss that is increasing exponentially, a 35% jump from 2022 now in 2023 to 2.15 billion rands. When we close this past financial year, our debtors days were sitting at 109. If you can see the slide that I'm sharing, the debtors days as at 2014, 2015 was sitting at 35 days. So we are paid 109 days after we have supplied water when we close. As at today, our debtors days is sitting at about 85 days. It should be at about 35 days. So we are concerned. Of course, we are expected, correctly so. We have an obligation to supply bulk water, upgrade, refurbish, operate, and maintain our infrastructure, but we need to be paid as well. And as I indicated in this presentation, that from our side, we are pushing and pumping as much as possible at max of what we can pump. We are adding infrastructure to store, we are adding infrastructure to purify water, and we are really a function, as I indicated early on. We are self-reliant and self-sufficient. We get no assistance from the fiscus. So it is important that we get paid on time to continue to maintain the system. So in terms of our credit management strategy, we classify our debtors. We've got performing, underperforming, and non-performing debtors. Firstly, I just want to thank the performing municipalities. We understand all municipalities are going through a difficult time. Our biggest customer, Joburg Water, is paying us on time. We remain eternally grateful. We thank the mayor, the MMCs, finance, and water and sanitation infrastructure provision, the MD and the board of Joburg Water for paying us on time. We thank Midval, Metsimaholo, Rustenburg, and Tembisi-Lahani for being the best performing municipalities in our value chain. The second category is non-performing municipalities. These are municipalities that have got outstanding debt between 60 and 90. They are paying, but they are not paying on time. The two biggest is Tshwane and Ekurhuleni. These two municipalities are paying, but of course we like to pay. We like to receive money, all of it at the end of the month. We have an outstanding amount of about 690 from the city of Tshwane and 440 from Ekurhuleni. We have received payment this month. We are hopeful that between the 25th and the end of the month, the current accounts will at least been settled. Mogale City and Royal Bafokeng, the next two underperforming municipalities. So I need to indicate that underperforming means they are paying, but they're not paying timelessly within that 35 days. Then we have the last category of municipalities that are non-performing. These are municipalities that are owing us 90 days and beyond. Some of them, we're talking 12 months, Lesedi, Mwate, Victor Kanye, Ren West, Merafong, Governor Mbeki, and Mfuleni. These are non-performing municipalities. In total, they have an outstanding debt in our books of about 3.1 billion. With Mfuleni, we have established a special purpose vehicle where we are going to be ring-fencing water and sanitation revenue of the municipalities into a dedicated account of water and sanitation provision. We are going to be working with them, and we're going to be crowdfunding the private sector, including Rainwater's balance sheet, to ensure that we upgrade, we refurbish, and reduce the physical losses of about 61% in that area. So in essence, this is where we are. In terms of other areas that the COO is not going to be covering that I thought I should cover. With your permission, I'm going to ask the COO to take us through the details of where the system is and how is it operating, and just give you a rundown of the discussions that we have with municipalities on a daily basis to work together and ensure equitable water supply in our area of operation. Thank you, COO.
All right, thank you, C. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Mahlomola Mehlo. As already introduced by the Chief Executive, I'm the COO. I've got a very small presentation just to go through the details on the operational side, and just to try and unpack, some of the operational myths and narratives that we have been hearing, and also to update the communities out there around our collaborative efforts with the various metros on what we're doing on a daily basis. I'll just, for context, just go through the rainwater systems, and I think the CE has already outlined that we've got a value chain that is really quite integrated, it's intertwined, and as rainwater, our mandate is to provide water in bulk. And what that means is that we do not necessarily have authority whatsoever of reticulating water in municipalities. So the water that we produce primarily comes from two of our primary systems. I'm going to try and use a pointer here. I hope online you can also see my pointer. So I think the previous slides from the CE has already indicated that we've added more water into the system, and we are currently producing around 5,000, just above 5,000, peaking at around 5,200. And our primary systems are Suikerbosch as well as Vereeniging Purification Works. And as you can see, this is quite an integrated system. It's a centralized system. Both of these plants are down in the... Do we have sound issues?
No, okay. It's not shared. Can you keep it shared?
Is it shared?
Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. So the system, in essence, it's quite a centralized system. It's a system that operates as a whole. It's not a system that has got a dedicated aspects of it.
Can we just go back to study the presentation?
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I've been requested to just run through the first few slides, just to cover the colleagues that missed on the first part. I hope the introduction was clear. My name is Mahlomola Mehlo, COO Rand Water, as already introduced by the Chief Executive. My presentation is just going to talk about the operations, the interventions that we have on a daily basis, especially with the metros. And I think the mandate has already outlined that we are a bulk water services provider, which means we do not reticulate the water. The water that we produce, we actually provide in bulk. And therefore, that is then left to our customers in the municipalities and industries to actually reticulate that water. So just by way of providing context, I'm just going to go into Rand Water Systems just so that we can orientate each other on the systems, so that when I talk about Klerksdorp, when I talk about Mapleton, when I talk about Palmeet, you know exactly which system I'm talking about and which area does it actually provide. So we've got two primary systems which we draw water from the Vaal Dam. I think the CE showed you a slide on the integrated Vaal River system. That is our source, it's our primary source, it's our feedstock, if you like. We get our water primarily, mainly from Lesotho. We of course do have local dams, so that's where we're drawing from. And we draw from Suikerbosch purification plant is our biggest plant, and Vereeniging, and that's where the purification really happens. That's where the production actually happens. And after we produce that water, we then start to pump it. You will see in the coming slides that we provide water to far-flung areas in Northwest Rustenburg, in Mpumalanga, your Tembisilehani, Govenbeki, and also in Free State. This is now in addition to the core customer base of Gauteng. We cover the entire Gauteng, all the municipalities in Gauteng. And it's extremely important then for us to pump the water so that it can reach those areas. And here what you're seeing is our booster stations. So if you like, we pump from where we actually obstruct, we pump where we purify, we pump to boost the water. What we have not shown here is some of our tertiary sites where we do further pumping before the water actually gets to the customer. And I'm emphasizing this issue of pumping because we're going to have to talk about the power issues, the load shedding, the power interruptions that we normally speak about. So, and because this is an integrated system, you cannot necessarily pump from primary only up to booster. The water will still not get to the end consumer. And therefore, it's extremely important that all that pumping happens at primary, at booster, as well as tertiary. And then the water goes into customers. And our customers are mainly municipalities. The CE mentioned the number, it's 18 in total of the municipalities. We also have industries. We also have other sectors, but mainly and primarily we are talking about municipalities. Now, the Suikerbosch system is our biggest system. It's producing around 3,800. Now that we've added more water, 3,900 to 4,000 million liters of water per day, every day, without fail. That's what this system is actually pumping. And that water is further then distributed to those booster sites that I've indicated. Of importance to note is some of these boosters that are fed from the two primary systems. Palmeet system is fed from Suikerbosch. It's one system that, obviously, as you can see from the numbers, accounts for the lion's share of the water that we actually pump. And then you also have the Mapleton system, and I'm going to unpack these systems. We've also indicated there in red the energy suppliers. For instance, you will see there we've got for our main sites, Eskom, Palmeet also supplied by Eskom, Swartkoppies also Eskom, but you have got exceptions. Eikenhof is actually supplied with energy by City of Johannesburg through their entity City Power. And in our Mapleton system, we get our energy directly from City of Ekurhuleni. Now, these systems, as they receive water from our central system, they are then responsible to supply this water or boost this water into specific areas. Specific, but also assisted by the interconnectedness of our system, and I'll explain later on. Starting with Eikenhof, we pump water into the Meerdale, Weltevreden, Waterval, Krugersdorp reservoirs. And this is mainly City of Johannesburg, Randwest, Mogale, Rustenburg, Emirafong, and some mines. It's a dedicated system that if it goes down, parts of Johannesburg will not have water. Parts because other systems are also supplying Johannesburg. As you can see here, Swartkopis as well as Palmit, they also supply Johannesburg. Now, if you look at Eikenhof, Randwest, Mogale City, Rustenburg, and Emirafong, these are areas that depend on this Eikenhof system. So if we have got a power outage and we are not able to boost water from this Eikenhof system, these areas are immediately notified that there's an issue, and they have to put in measures in place to make sure that whilst we are sorting the problem out, they have water, sufficient water in their reservoir systems. The second one is Swartkopis. Similarly, Benoni, Yeoville, Innerdale, Meerdale, and Forest Hill. And these are the systems or reservoir that are actually responsible to supply water to other parts of Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, as well as some other industries. And then we go to Palmit, which, as I said, accounts for the lion's share of the water that we actually boost. That accounts to water that we supply to a bigger part of City of Johannesburg, a bigger part of Tshwane, and a bigger part of Ekurhuleni as well, Madibeng included therein as well. And the last system that we actually have that gets water from Suikerbos is the Mapleton system, which supplies water in the eastern side of Tshwane, supplies water into Ekurhuleni, your Davidton, your Etwatwa, Tsakani, and those areas. Further to that, we've got a few other municipalities in Mpumalanga, Tembisilehani, Govenbeki, and Victor Khanye. Now, when I go to the next slide, this addresses itself now to the remainder of the system. The primary system that I indicated that we've got Vereeniging as well as Suikerbos. So now Vereeniging also supplies water to Eikenhof. You'd recall that Eikenhof gets water from Suikerbos as well as Swartkopis. And these are the only two shared booster systems that are receiving water from our primary systems. In addition to those, we then have a system that is dedicated to VVS, which is Van der Bijl Park, Vereeniging, and Sasolburg. And those are the areas that receive water from the VVS system. What is of importance that I need to mention with the VVS system is that, similar to other systems, it's not getting energy from Eskom, but it's getting its energy supply from the municipality directly. What then happens is when we boost this water, we also have then our strategic reservoirs. CE mentioned this, that we've got 59 strategic reservoirs. They are strategic in what sense? In the sense that, and I'm going to unpack the issue of storage in the coming slide or two, in that we need to have those reservoirs operated at certain levels so that we can counter the effects of those issues that are outside our controls, power outages and any other infrastructure breakdowns. So they are strategic to us in that sense. But secondly, they are strategic because they also help boost water in terms of the hydraulic designs to other systems that do not necessarily need pumping. Because remember, you only pump water only when it's necessary, because it costs energy and therefore it costs money to pump and boost the water. Now, this slide I really need to spend a little bit of time on just to explain the context of this storage, the context of pumping, and the context of the volumes of water that is ultimately sold to our customers. I'd like to start with this red line. This red line shows our storage in our system, and this is the entire rainwater system. This line at any given time, when I look at it, for instance, as we are seated here, my storage is between 30 and 40%, which means I'm operating the system at around 34%. Where would I like to be in terms of the storage? I would like to be between 60 and 80%. Why? Because I know that at some point I'm going to have a power supply interruption. I'm going to have infrastructure that may fail. And whilst I'm attending to those, whilst I'm calling ESCOM to come and restore power, or calling Ekurhuleni or calling Emfuleni to restore power, I have got sufficient water in the system that can still be distributed to our customers. And therefore nobody feels the pinch. But as you can see, there has been obviously a big struggle to maintain this red line in these zones. Now, before I tell you what actually causes that, let's look at another line which is also a critical line, and that is this yellow line here. This yellow line, as you can see, it's quite consistent around those figures there, shy of 5,000. Call it 5,000 million liters of water that we pump per day, as CE indicated. Now, here's the data that tells you that. Here's the data that confirms that. We are pumping without necessarily any fail. Of course, there are dips there, and those are dips that, as I say, you have power interruptions. You have here and there infrastructure that fails. But by and large, our pumping has remained constant at around 5,000 million liters of water per day. So the question that is always asked, Rainwater, do you have issues in your systems? No, we don't. Here is the evidence. We are pumping. All right, I'm sure that's somebody online. If you can mute yourself, please. And then, all right, I'm going to proceed nevertheless. The other line that is very important that needs to be read in conjunction with my yellow as well as my red line is my blue line. What is my blue line? My blue line is sales. Is the water that I meter at the consumer point. Is the water that I then supply, that I meter, which consumers at the end of the month supposedly must pay. Now, that line also very much consistent around 4.7. So you don't have this line dropping to 4.4 or 3.5 or below 4,000, which means the water does reach the consumer. So am I pumping the water? Yes. Is the water reaching the consumer? Yes. Here is the evidence. Who is the consumer? Primarily is the municipalities. Now, with all these things said, I would like to pick up this red line of mine to operate here. I'm not saying there is no water in the system. As you can see, there is water in the system. Otherwise, consumer will not be getting water. There's water in the system because I'm pumping the water. However, I would like to have my storage between 60 and 80% so that should we continue to have power outages as a result of maybe other factors other than even load shedding, we're able to attend to them without necessarily dropping my system. So what will happen if my storage drops to 0? Then we'll have a problem. Then we don't have water to give to anybody whenever there are problems. And this is the part that is extremely important, where we have since learned that the consumption patterns have not changed. What do I mean by that? And I think we have to unpack this concept of consumption, because we are often quoted out of context, CE, to be saying that we are blaming consumers. No, we are not blaming consumers. In this context, what consumption actually means is that it's water that we are producing, that we are pumping, that we are selling to the consumers. That water, we assume that it's used, but we also know that there is a lot of wastage in the water that we actually supply into the municipalities. And that wastage is part of the consumption. So when we talk about reducing consumption, we are also talking about reducing that wastage, because that wastage is part of the consumption. And it has to be understood in that context, because when we talk about consumption, we don't have eyes in the reticulation of municipalities. Only the customers have eyes in that space. Only they can actually say, where is that wastage and what can they do about it? So the concept of consumption talks firstly about the wastage that is in there, but secondly, it talks about the nature of the South Africans using water, the behavioral patterns of using water. Water, this is potable water. It's potable because it has been treated. It has been treated to drinking standard. Now, we use drinking water, which is potable water, for other non-potable purposes. And this is where we then, from time to time, in as much as we implore customers to deal with the wastage, fix the leaks, and make sure that there is pressure management in the systems, this is where also there is a part where metros themselves and our customers, ourselves included, would implore also with customers to look at how we actually use water. Because there is that part also. There is wastage in the consumption, but there is also that part of using water, potable water, for non-potable purposes. What are we talking about non-potable purposes? We're talking about washing your pavements with potable water, clean water. We're talking about cleaning cars sometimes during peak hours, because everybody then is using water. And this peak hour concept is also extremely important to unpack. It's that time when everybody is busy with water-related activities. We taking showers more or less at similar times. We cooking at home more or less at similar times. So that is the peak hour, peak time that we talk about. So at those times, that's when you will see and hear municipalities imploring that during peak hour, please do not do the following. It's then trying to balance the issue of non-potable usage with potable usage. So we then sat down as Rand Water, ladies and gentlemen, noticing that this is obviously not the desired state. And we started a process of communicating with our customers. In fact, that process started as far back as 2017 CE, to say, what can we do jointly to try and assist each other to manage then the system efficiently? We then established a program called Project 1600. What is this 1600? This 1600 simply talks to the concept that CE referred to, wherein the department has said to us, we have given you a license of 1347 million cubic meters per annum. You are already in the 1600. At the time, the abstraction was in the 1600 region. The department then said to us, do not exceed this 1600. Keep it down. Why? Because we know there's wastage. A lot of water that you produce and supply is actually wasted. Go and talk to your customers. Reduce that wastage. Bring it down. And once you have brought it down to acceptable levels of around 15%, 10-15% when you benchmark against the world average, then we can talk. Rand Water, then we can talk about increasing your license. So that's where the concept of Project 1600 comes from. And in a nutshell, what it means is we sit with municipalities, we say, in this area, in that area, can we look at the efficiencies? Can we look at optimizing the systems? Can we look at plugging the leaks? I've got a slide, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm going to talk to that really speaks to the leaks. So I think as I close and summarize on this slide, we are producing water, we are pumping the water, we are supplying the water. There's the evidence on my blue line, yet the storage continues to drop. So what does this mean? It simply means the consumption, that includes wastage, that includes that consumer behavior that needs to change, is going the wrong direction. And that we are going to show in the consumption figures of various metros. Now, as I delve into the consumption of these metros, we are specifically focusing on the three metros. The reason is simple. They account for 77% of the water that we produce. So 77% of the consumption of the water we produce is consumed by the three metros in the main: City of Johannesburg, City of Ekurhuleni, and City of Tshwane. And therefore, if we're going to make an impact into changing the situation and turning the situation around, those are our key partners. And that is not to say that we are not necessarily talking and partnering with other customers. So here are the consumption figures of City of Johannesburg. I did indicate that we started these talks as early as last year. And when we met at that time, because we went through a similar challenge wherein consumption shoots up, and it's not consumption that is blaming the consumers. It's consumption that has got a number of variables in them. I need to continuously stress this because we are always quoted as saying we're blaming consumers. We then said, for us to operate the system, this integrated system, efficiently, Joburg Water, please be on that, below that red line. Please try and keep your consumption below this red line. And when you are performing at your best, you should be closer to this green line. Now, as you can see, for the better part of the year, starting from late last year into the beginning towards the middle of the current year, this was achieved, which means it's possible. We can keep this consumption low. But then we started hitting the hotter periods, July, middle of July, going into August. And as you can see, look there, consumption shoots up. And when consumption shoots up like this, bear in mind that we still have those leaks, that some of them are being attended to, but that variable remains constant. If you assume that those leaks are still there, that variable remains constant. What changes is the consumer behavior. It's sprinklers, it's swimming pools being filled, and all of the other variables that change. But the resultant effect of that is consumption went up, it shot above the red line, and as you can see, as of this past week, it's still above the red line. There were nice efforts towards the end of September, beginning of October, managed to bring it down to the red line, and then, no, we're back up again. And this is a similar pattern that you're going to see with the three metros. This is City of Ekurhuleni. Again, we managed to keep that consumption below the red line for the better part of late last year, beginning of this year, up to the middle of the year. But then again, in September, similar period, hot period, some consumption shoots up. Again, there are efforts to try and bring it down, but it's starting again to show its ugly head is going there the wrong way. City of Tshwane, unfortunately, is the opposite. The other two metros, we've managed to keep the consumption below the red line for the better part of that period, but with City of Tshwane, it's actually above for the better part of the period. As of last week, there were good efforts to bring that down, so we are happy with this trajectory. We hope with our daily meetings, with our daily jog interventions, we can continue on this trajectory. It's showing a positive sign, but as of today, we're still above the red line, which means we're still above the agreed consumption quotas. The last consumption pattern that I'm showing is the three metros combined. Now, when everybody then puts the efforts together and keep the consumption below the red line, this is the resultant effect. For the three metros, for the better part of last year, we were able to keep this consumption below the red line. But this is then what started happening July, which is a similar pattern when you compare it with the other metros, that then consumption starts to shoot up. With some interventions, we managed to drop it down, but then it shot up again. And the morning meetings, this is primarily why we are meeting, to say how do we jointly keep this down. Now, bear in mind that every one of these metros are operating their own independent systems. Why is it then important for us to keep the consumption low? Number one, it will increase the nerve center. The nerve center is the Rand Water system. Rand Water is like your creative middle filter. Middle filter, if I have to use the soccer language. When the ball comes to that midfielder, he's able to distribute the ball to where it's needed. Equally and similarly, Rand Water has got then the potential to do so. As of this morning, in our meeting with the metros, we have established that all three of them have got sufficient water in their systems. Joburg Water said they've got about 50% of water in their system. City of Tshwane is sitting the highest, is sitting pretty at around 60-65%. And then the City of Ekurhuleni between 40 and 50%. So they all have water, and we are happy as Rand Water about that. The need for us to build the Rand Water storage comes in where one part of the metro, or any other customer for that matter, has got a difficulty that needs us to intervene. If we do not have sufficient water in Rand Water system, we're not able to intervene. remember, we do not produce this water to be consumed by rainwater. So even if rainwater systems and storage can sit at 5% or 10%, that is not detrimental to us. It is detrimental to that particular customer who will need an intervention. And if we do not have that water, City of Tshwane will not be able to directly supply a system in the City of Johannesburg or City of Ekurhuleni. It's not possible. That's not how the system is configured. So it's therefore extremely important to understand that that water, we need the water to sit in the rainwater system so that whenever there are issues in a particular customer or a particular metro, we're able to intervene. And this is where the concept that has gained popularity, CE, comes in, of load shifting. When system in Tshwane struggles, as an example, and there is water in the system in Johannesburg, that system has to give water to that other metro. But as I said, there is no direct link. So how do you do it? You do it via rainwater. I hope it's a simple enough concept, ladies and gentlemen, to grasp, but we can get into it during the Q&A session. But by and large, that's what we are saying when we talk about the desire for us to operate our systems, which is our reservoir storages between 60 and 80%. Now, here is a slide that is of interest that, again, the Chief Executive mentioned, that often there is also a narrative that we are not putting enough water in the system. Here is the graph and the data that tells you the opposite. Over the years, since 2019 up to the first quarter of the current financial year, 2023-2024, you can see for yourself. The graph is on an upward trajectory. What I need to mention here, ladies and gentlemen, that is extremely important, is that the System 5 system and the Vlakfontein Reservoir that the CE spoke about, that we've launched, that some of you were there, that is not the infrastructure that should have been operational now in 2023. That is the infrastructure that was conceived and planned to augment and actually anticipate the growing demand in 2030. Which means as we are sitting here and now, we are already dipping into those investments. That was a 2030 investment, but owing to the growing consumption, we've had to dip into those investments, and we have already put those in operation. And I also need to confirm that they are also in operation. The both of them, System 5 as well as the Vlakfontein Reservoir. Now, we have been talking about the wastage as part of consumption, and this is not our slides. This is the data from the Department of Water and Sanitation, which they have released a draft watch report. In that watch report, the department themselves are saying, on average in South Africa, we are seeing a very disturbing growing trend of wastage. This wastage can be classified as real losses and apparent losses. I've got a slide that will show the real losses, but the apparent losses is when you do not have to derive revenue from the water that actually rainwater is supplying to you. So as an example, if rainwater is supplying a particular customer with water, 42.4% of the water that we actually sell to that particular customer, they themselves in turn cannot collect revenue from that water as a result of a number of these variables. Billing errors, leaks are a big part of that loss. But you also have those commercial losses from the billing errors, from the system errors. Now, in this slide, we obviously are focusing and concentrating on Gauteng customers. And just to demonstrate and to further make the point, this non-revenue water is these figures. This is the non-revenue water. And in there is real losses, leaks, apparent losses, billing losses, and commercial losses, and all of them. But here is a column of interest and really disturbing. This is water that is physically lost. Physically, we give you 10 liters. Of that 10 liters, you lose 30% of it. But you still have to pay for the other 3 liters that you would have lost. Look at customers such as this one. I give you 10 liters, you lose 6.5 liters, and you still have to pay for it, by the way. And you can only use 3. It's unsustainable. It's unsustainable. What this picture therefore does, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, is that it puts a strain on a system that is not designed to accommodate wastage. Because I'm sure we all can agree that wastage is wastage. Reduce it. You have to reduce wastage so that you then bring that demand down. If you do not bring that demand down, it means we have to keep on investing, pushing more water into the system, and ultimately that goes directly towards the tariff, and it goes, you know, towards the affordability of the water. Just in closing, we have then devised a strategy, which is like a monitoring tool, if you like, wherein we have said to our metros, these are our key systems, as you have seen, Mapleton, Palmit, Aikenhof, and as you can see, there's water in all of these systems. Some, they seem to be a bit low, some are high. We've got systems like Germiston that are out of commission. CE spoke about the legislative requirement to clean reservoirs. So this one is out for cleaning and inspection. But what you are seeing here is currently, as of yesterday, this is where our system was sitting. So there's water in our system. There's water in the metro system that we've now established. But what we are now saying is, how do we make sure then that we get more of this storage up so that we're able to intervene as and when we need to? And we are working jointly with our metros. We look at the areas that are suffering. We look at what can be done. We agree on, call it curtailment, call it restriction. We agree on the messaging that needs to go out. But please bear in mind that whatever they do on the reticulation side, we have got no eyes, we've got no authority. Literally, we then rely on those daily sessions to get feedback to check whether those interventions are actually working. I think I'll leave it at this point, CE. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just before we go through to the Q&A, I just want to highlight a few facts very quickly. One of the reasons, COO, why we want our reservoirs to be at 60 is for the benefit of some municipalities that want higher storage so that they have enough pressure in their system to supply high-lying areas. There are municipalities that still do not have their own booster capacity, and therefore the volumes in our reservoir, it's really for those that do not have that capability. So it's not hogging the water. It's not wanting to store the water for the sake of storing water, and reasons the COO is mentioning is to help some municipalities that do not have booster capabilities with the water that we already given them, the water that you've seen in the system to supply water in the high-lying areas. Ladies and gentlemen, I also need to mention that the information that we're sharing with you in the interest of transparency is in our website. We are going to be progressively, as we walk this journey with you, explaining how the system works, what percentages mean, and more information in the system. So on a weekly basis, we share the volumes of the water that has passed the municipalities in line with what the COO has demonstrated in relation to the targets that we have set ourselves. Those numbers are in our website on every Tuesday. Without fail, we also share them on our social media platform. So if there's anybody that wants to see that information is in our website. We'll also add to the slides on pumping, sales, and storage. But it is important that we explain these numbers before we throw them at you. So I think I just need to mention that the information that we're sharing is not top secret. We're not. It's readily available. Our media team is here. If anybody wants to have access at any given time, please do so. And in fact, there are a lot of people that have been visiting us in recent times who are interested in understanding how the system works, where are we, how do we provide water. We are open for that. So if there's any structure, NGO or organization that wants to visit Rainwater and understand and have us unpicking these numbers. As a public utility, we remain open at any given time to share this information with anybody that wants to have a detailed one-on-one discussion, and of course, setting up the appropriate appointments and time and place. We can even take you to some of our sites. Thank you.
Thank you, CE and COO. Colleagues, we will be taking questions. I think let's start with journalists who are in the room. So we'll take two sets of questions. Let's start with the first round.
Just a follow-up on one matter. It's Thokozani from the Sister Pedro.
Okay,
the question, there's a step that I want to put across with the CD.
Okay, can you just wait a bit? Let me just explain the process and then I'll give you an opportunity, Thokozani.
Thank you.
All right. So just maybe introduce yourself when you ask a question, and then ask a question. Maybe we'll take 2-3 questions, and then we'll afford our leaders to respond to the questions. Then we'll go online, raise your hand, wait to be recognized, and then unmute, ask a question, and then we'll go to the next person. Maybe we'll take 3-4 questions. Then we also respond to the questions. So maybe because Thokozani had a pressing matter, let's start with Thokozani, and then we'll start with if we have a roving mic, colleagues. Let's start if there are questions. Do we have a mic? Okay. In the meantime, Thokozani, we're listening to you.
Yeah. Now, basically, I want to correct the facts, especially with the CD, because the statement is that every learning is only evaluating something we done after 60 days. And that's not true. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago with the CE and our Chief Financial Officer and the Chief Financial Officer for Rainwater, where it was agreed that every Romania has been honoring the agreement of payment. We pay 60% of the fee that is due on time, and the 40% we pay after 15 days. And we've never defaulted on that agreement. So to go to the media and say that every Romania is defaulting on payment of Rainwater more than 60 days, that is not true. And it's the first that needs to be corrected. Since in the meeting that was called by the CE, it was confirmed by the CFO of Rainwater that every Romania has been ensuring that that arrangement is adhered to. So it's the fact that I really need to correct. Thank you.
See, would you like to go? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think Thokozani understood what I said. I just want to show you the numbers. What I'm saying, we have 3 categories of customers, Thokozani, and yes, you are quite correct, we had that meeting. And in the slide that I demonstrated, I did indicate that we are receiving payment. These are the numbers as at September, and then you and I had that discussion. These numbers, they indicate that Ekurhuleni, we received a payment for this current account of 161 million against the current account of 354. I did explain that we did receive a payment, and I'm correct, Thokozani, although you are paying in terms of the current account has not been fully paid. So we are categorizing your municipality as underperforming because of the current account. At no given time did I say you are not paying us. At no given time did I say the things that you are saying I'm saying. So I think we need to
but you should have clarified that by arrangement.
Yeah,
you
but
should have clarified that you've got an arrangement. If you've got an arrangement.
yes, we have an arrangement. We have an arrangement. We have an arrangement. Yeah, but we have an arrangement. I didn't say we didn't have an arrangement. We do have an arrangement. And then I didn't say we are not paying according to the arrangement. So we have an arrangement, isn't it? But we have an outstanding current account. Am I correct? Am I incorrect? So we have an arrangement. And yes, we had a meeting. So I'm not saying we didn't have an arrangement. I don't think you needed to correct anything that I didn't say. That is the reality of the matter.
More than 60 days, and that's not true.
No, I,
You pay 60% of the bill on
Okay.
time. You should have stated the details because we had an arrangement that you are aware of. To go and say the city owes you more than 60 days and it's not true. It's not a fact.
okay, no, it's fine, Thokozani, and I apologize if I gave an impression that we don't have an arrangement and then you're not paying, but I was just referring to the current account. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, thank you, CE. Thank you, Dr. Thokozani. Can we take questions from colleagues who are here? Then we'll move to online. Alex, I recognize your hand is up. We'll come to you just now. Here, do we have hands? Do you have questions? So we do have a question there, okay?
Thank you very much. My name is Francis Imo from SABC News. I just wanted to find out about the issue of non-revenue water, as to what is being done. I mean, 42% of water that is being lost is quite a lot. And some of it has been attributed to, rainwater not actually heeding the advice that it was given by some experts that, if the infrastructure remains unserviced for quite a while, it might lead to where we are now, where there's leaks, and what you just mentioned, the challenges that actually lead to the pressure being low at reservoirs. What's being done to remedy the situation of this non-revenue water?
Okay, what? Non-revenue water. Okay, then another question do we have? Please introduce yourself, the media house that you're representing, and then ask a question.
So I've got two questions. The first question is the issue of is rainwater or government having a problem itself, considering some more effective ways of ensuring that citizens do not waste water. One would be maybe implementing watershed systems that are able to manage water consumption, or maybe have more legal accountability measures so that if there is illegal wasting water, it can be clear steps that can be taken against the consumption. For the citizens, nothing is being done in terms of enforcing the importance of saving water. So are there any plans within the pipeline to ensure that, or do you think such options is potentially needed? But also in terms of the municipalities that are not paid, what is being done in just the convention like representation? Are there any alternative to ensure that if there is an existing arrangement being kept, and any penalties for failure of keeping that arrangement, then the state has to be. So in terms of holding municipalities accountable, are the current measures effectively ensuring that if you owe, you must pay in time, so that you don't have cases where someone can say, maybe I've made an arrangement and then need to leave on the arrangement. And just one last question, sorry. As we are heading towards the festive season, or as well as the festive season, any plans of water sharing or water management or power shifting? Are there any of the
Okay, so got 3 questions. One last question, and then we'll give CE and CO an opportunity to respond. Introduce yourself, please, sir.
Morning, Alpha and Corona here from LIVESTREAM News. Yeah, I wanted to ask the same question because I think you mentioned that about 32, or according to the slide, about 32% of water has been lost by using this kind of thing. My second question is around more of the issue of Johannesburg's current water rules. We've also claimed the rain gauge, and they are saying that, in our engagement with them, they are saying that the city of Johannesburg is not receiving enough water from rainwater. So what do you say about that? Do you deny these allegations from these entities that you're not providing them with enough water? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alpha. CE, I'm going to hand over to you and COO.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for the questions. Can we start with Dr. Ufenze, SABC? You mentioning calls by experts to reduce non-revenue water. Firstly, let me probably clarify. The non-revenue water figures that we presented here are not our non-revenue figures, right? We also have non-revenue water figures. As Rand Water, compared to the 44% that you saw, ours is at 6.8%. You also had another column that speaks to the actual losses, physical losses. Ours is sitting below 5%. So there's no comparison. Those figures are not talking to Rand Water losses in our system. As I indicated, those are the slides from the department. They are not even our slides. That is not our data. It simply says in the country on average, right? And it does not specifically say City A or Metro B, these are your figures. That's an average figure. But I've shared with you our figures. Now, I don't know which aspect you're referring to, but I stand here proud that our figures are very low. I did mention the international benchmark of around 15%. As you can hear, we are well below that. In addition to that, we are still further challenging ourselves. With those low figures, as I've just mentioned, we are recognizing that more work can still be done. There's still room for improvement. And we've put some measures in place to further combat those losses. One beautiful intervention that we will be putting in place as of the beginning of next year is that we have procured the satellite imaging. That is going to assist us with identifying the leaks. We're going to have this satellite imaging, we're going to interpret them, and that is going to give us the capability of being able to attend to some of the leaks real time, and our response will be better. And that is notwithstanding the fact that our figures are still very much low. So I hope I've answered you that offense. The gentleman from newsroom speaks about the measures to enforce, to talk about water saving. There are messages that you see every time you open social media. Even our minister, the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Dr. Senzo Mchunu, speaks about the importance of water conservation and demand management. Simply put, it speaks to exactly that. How to use water wisely, how to use water sparingly. And we try, as you go into various metros, I can attest to the fact that some of our customers, we've seen their bylaws, wherein they will say, please do not irrigate between a certain time and a certain time. And as I've explained, the reason for that is that that is a peak hour. Please do not wash your paving with clean water. So those are the water saving tips and the messaging that goes out there. Our own communications team, Aus Lydia and Aus Makinosi, have got our own Rand Water programs that speak to conserving water. We are also on national television, so I hope you will see us at some point, my colleague from newsroom. We've got campaigns on radio where we speak about water saving tips, water conservation issues. So really there is no shortage of the messages out there. The issue then becomes the enforcement of some of these bylaws. The issue then becomes, do we expect the consumer behavioral pattern to change overnight? Of course not. Do we want to keep hammering on the messaging of water saving tips? Yes, and that's exactly what we're going to do until we understand each other. Remember, we also accept and appreciate that we are not necessarily talking to people who understand the value chain, and we have to be extremely patient in explaining, in educating, in also informing, various communities, so that at the end of the day, we get to a point where we all accept that we are only going to win this battle if we act in unison. And ours is really to try and win you over. And we really are starting that journey in that fashion. Are there measures with municipalities that are not paying? Yes, I think the CE has just spoken to a typical example of an arrangement that we have as Rand Water with one of the municipalities. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, as you can hear, it's never a smooth sail when a person who owes you start talking about pay me. It's never a smooth sailing. And we appreciate that there are those frustrations. And that's why the CE is speaking about partnerships and us understanding the economic situations of our country and by extension of our customers. And we are the first ones to actually extend an olive branch to our customers, especially those that are struggling, to say, we can see that you're struggling. How can we be of assistance? The CE spoke about the SPV model that has recently been agreed with Mfuleni. That is going to, in the main, assist with the debt that we have outlined. We are not saying you pay us, you owe us, therefore pay us, and we look the other way. We say, how can we be part of the solution? We know that the revenue collection rates are low. How can we participate in that space to make sure that we assist? And that SPV is really going to be historic in how it's going to turn the water sector around, because we really want then to also eliminate this issue of saying, when there is an issue in a particular metro or an issue in a particular area, you know, you don't know as a consumer, do you go to Joburg Water, do you go to Ekurhuleni, or do you go straight to Rand Water? We have outlined our mandate, ladies and gentlemen. You now know what is our mandate. Our mandate is bulk. And unfortunately, the consumer interaction, the consumer interface is at a reticulation level. And therefore, we are also not saying, when you talk to us, no, don't talk to us. That's reticulation. Go to your municipality. We really want to be part of the solution. So those measures are really then in that spirit, in the spirit of partnering with our customers. Any plans of water sharing? From Rand Water point of view, no. From a customer point of view, I do not know. I cannot speak on behalf of the customers. As you have heard, they've got their own authority, their own autonomous bodies. But from where we are seated, we have just shared with you our figures. We are pumping water. We are distributing the water. The water is being sold. And for as long as we've got our systems running, there is really no plan of water shedding whatsoever. Despite the issues of the licenses that the CE spoke about, we do have an understanding with the department that we are going to keep over-abstracting until the Lesotho Phase 2 kicks in, and that's when the department will start reviewing our license. But nobody has put a condition to us to say, do not abstract as you need to. So we do have that understanding and appreciation that we're going to produce water and supply water for as long as there's a need of water out there. I think the last question was also around specifically City of Johannesburg saying they're not getting enough water from us. Look, I'm not a City of Johannesburg spokesperson. I will not comment on their behalf. All I can tell you is we've shown you our figures. You make up your mind from the figures that we have shown you. Thank you.
Yeah, just in terms of the last one, I think part of the daily meetings that we have at operational level is to work together. So we have daily meetings at operational level. In those meetings, the COO and the operations team of the municipalities, they look at the system in total. So at any given time, including today, as he indicated, we share with each other what the volumes are in one system and the volumes are in that system. So at operational level, we work together, and we work together very well, and we try as much as possible amongst all the municipalities to share the water. And in fact, I've listened to the last week's Joburg Water's press conference. I didn't get the sense that they're blaming anybody. I think they are indicating where the challenges are and how well they're working with us. So we'll continue to work with each other. We'll continue to have daily meetings, and in those daily meetings, we'll continue to jointly solve the problems. And we'll stay away from giving an impression that we are blaming each other. But of course, I think we're a bulk water producer, and they are distributors. And indeed, really there's no, as far as I'm concerned, finger pointing at the operational level. And just in terms of the debt, yes, our situation is not looking good. We need to be paid on time. And I'm on road shows now. I'm meeting with all the municipalities. Ideally, we want them to have debt settlement agreements in writing to ensure that I need to mention, for those that are not here, like Tokozanu's here. I've also spoken to Twani. We have arrangement, and few other municipalities. We have those arrangements, but of course we want to be paid on brief and on budget, and on time. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, CE, and thank you, COO. As we indicated, we are going to be having more of these sessions, so we're planning to have them weekly, so you will be getting an opportunity to be asking and engaging rainwater on a weekly basis. On that note, can we move to colleagues who are online? I know that Alex, you did have a question. Can you please ask your question, unmute, and then we'll take other questions.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Alex.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, my hand has been stuck in the up position, so I just kept saying, please just ignore it. I believe the first part of my question has been answered, but if we could just please have a little bit more detail on project 1600, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Do we have another question? Who do we have online? Please unmute when you're done. Do we have another question online? I don't see any hand. Okay. Okay, here, do we have a question? Okay, I do have a mic. Please, let me just come to you. Oh, please use that mic.
Operating
The source being the IVRS, getting its water from Lesotho, it also gets some of its water from our own rainfall. But because we are a water scarce and a semi-arid country, we anticipate seasons like this one that we're in now, your El Nino season. And you therefore have to have in your planning the worst case scenario. What would be the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is that in a particular season, you don't get rain at all, which means that storage must then sustain you even through that difficult period. So the obstruction of our water is regulated precisely for that reason. Other reasons are you need to maintain the aquatic life on the downstream side and. But primarily, we need to make sure that these receiving bodies have water at all material times. With this in mind, the department then says, you, customer A, cannot over-obstruct. We need to regulate how much you take from a resource of this nature. We are one of the customers that obstruct from the IVRS that also have to be regulated in that sense. And that is primarily the reason why. Now, that Project 1600 therefore says, upon realizing that we struggled to increase our license, because remember, we knew as far back as 2009 that we want to increase and augment our infrastructure, which would mean more water that we need to abstract, more water that we need to purify, and more water that we need to distribute. But for us to abstract more, we then need to demonstrate that we have taken a number of things into consideration. And that's what the department then looks at in terms of the license that they issue to us. We therefore said, but hang on, the water that you're abstracting and that you're producing and that you're distributing, 30%, over 30% of that is actually physically lost. You are not on a correct trajectory because you are feeding into losses as opposed to feeding into the actual consumption and the actual usage, wise usage of this water. Before I consider extending this license for you, Mr. Rainwater, please go back and demonstrate to me that you are doing enough to curb the wastage, therefore reducing the consumption. So the Project 1600 therefore aims to do exactly that. It aims to say, colleagues, we are in this thing together, we are partners, how do we reduce this consumption together? And everything about the discussion we have had this morning is also part of that discussion to say, how do we reduce this consumption together? How do we work together to make sure that we reduce this consumption? And it entails looking at the model, which is a scientific model, which points to some efficiencies that could be harvested if we do certain things. And of course, this is a program that, you know, in some corners, some would not necessarily be in agreement. But what it does, what is good about it, is that it has created a platform that is also accommodative of even those views that are not necessarily aligned to what we want or how we want to reduce this consumption. But what I can tell you is that we are all in agreement that we need to reduce consumption. And Project 1600 is really meant to do that. Brayton, are the municipality systems failing us? No, of course not. We have said that we've got joint sessions every morning. We talk about issues of water-related activities, water-related challenges. We talk about them in the spirit of partnership. We do not shy away from the challenges that are out there. We do not shy away from challenges that are in the value chain. And of course, the infrastructure is in the value chain. You also have electricity outages, which municipality has got nothing to do with that problem. So when we talk about the challenges that characterize the issues that we see, we are not necessarily talking about them in the spirit of trying to find the culprit. We are trying to find solutions as this team that I spoke to. Thank you.
Let me just check if we still have questions. Online, we don't have any. I see there are no hands. Do we still have questions? If not, we will wrap it up. But if there are still any further questions later, if you want to ask, please do send us an email. We'll respond to the questions that you have. As we indicated that we are going to be having these sessions weekly on a weekly basis to afford you an opportunity to engage with Rainwater. Just before we should you wrap up, I wanted to ask. No, okay. No, I'm sorted. Okay, great. If there are no further questions, I think let's just wrap it up. CE, I don't know if in closing, is there anything that you want to add? COO? Okay, we are done. Thank you so much, and thank you very much. We really appreciate your time being here. We know that as journalists, you do have deadlines. You're working against tight deadlines. So we'd like to say thank you very much, and next week we'll have another session.